right, if you'd all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
That twice today.
A motion would be in order for the approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Oh, are there any additions, corrections? I guess before you, I'm trying to move it right along, right? First thing.
You're doing a good job.
The contracts have been updated, and the new
We do
one
have them,
is not in the packet. I have
Yeah,
it.
but I
That's
wanted
just
to
more of a
make sure.
note. And we do have one
about that,
retirement,
Okay,
all right?
that's it.
It wouldn't hurt my
So we don't
feelings
need
if you
that.
wanted to finance
No,
at the beginning.
but I just wanted to note it.
You're so
So a
good.
motion would be in order to approve the agenda as presented. And we will be having executive session this evening.
So moved.
Second,
I second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
General public comments. There's no general public here, so I'm going to take this opportunity to make my general public comment. So Saturday at the senior ladies soccer game versus Pulteney, we had an event that was slightly unsettling. And I just want to recognize those that rose to the occasion. As far as we know, the individual is in the hospital, will be having surgery, and is hoping for a full recovery. So when something like that happens and you're at the field, not everyone realizes what's happening. And there are those then that automatically just jump into action because that's who they are. So I'd just like to thank Paul Story, Wes Flanders, Sandor Vita, the Pittsford Fire and Rescue Regional Ambulance, Heidi Welch, who was just amazing, Jake Eaton, and Chris Sell. They had the AED machine. I think those are the.
Good.
And, you know, I think that was really between Heidi and that machine. Those were the two determining factors that he's in the hospital awaiting surgery. So it was an incredible team effort. It was an unfortunate event. It was lovely to see how our teams responded and how respectful they were. And as you can imagine, the volume at the game was quite loud, and suddenly it was to crickets. And it was amazing to see how everyone pulled together. So I'd just like to thank all of those people, and we're happy to know that it has a positive resolution. So we will start with old business. And in old business, we have transcripts. When we went back and looked through the minutes, Adam was to be bringing the transcripts to us last year, I believe, to look for approval. And while at the elementary school level, transcripts don't seem as important, at the high school level, they certainly, depending on where you are, have a certain level of importance. Currently, we don't have a general transcript across all three high schools. Everyone has their own, and everyone's inputting a little bit of different information. Last year, we talked about purchasing the platform to create a more unified transcript. What Judy and I spoke about, there have been some concerns from parents. I have been one of those parents that has met with my building principal about the transcript, but there are others. And not just the transcripts, but jump rope in general and how information is being shared. And what we would like to do, if the board and building principals are on board, is hold 45 minutes, an hour at max, for parents just to come to each school with either Judy or Lisa as the mediator, and allow parents to share what the concerns are. For example, an elementary school parent comes and says, let's say it's first grade, and the proficiency is counting 1 to 100. And their child is at a 4. They're 100% proficient. And this is, let's say, October. And in February, they come and their child is at a 3. And so the parent says, did my child suddenly forget how to count to 100? Or are they bored with counting to 100? Explain that to me. And the response is sometimes not there. And so those are the kinds of questions that elementary parents might be coming with. So, I don't know, and maybe elementary school principals have a quick response of how you would respond to that.
Is that a rhetorical question?
So those are the
Possibly.
Well,
Depends on the
if I
student.
could expand a little bit
Sure.
on our conversation. So I shared with Lisa that we had had a conversation among principals just about talking about grading in general. And my suggestion was perhaps we do what's called a focus group. Doesn't mean, 50 parents come and complain, but we ask a representation of our student population to come and just share questions and concerns they have, and just do that intake, a one-time deal at each school. And I think the principal should be there too, but either Lisa or myself would come to help facilitate. We could split it 8 schools, we could each take 4, and use that as some feedback and compile it. So when we start having our discussions about grading and reporting, we also have some feedback of what parents' questions and concerns are, and that might help us answer some of those questions. I've seen that done in other places really well, is just to say, we're just here to get your feedback, hear your questions and concerns. Bring your report cards, blank out the names, however we want to do it.
Right.
So that was my suggestion on one way to go about it, to, really hear the questions and concerns and not respond to them right then, but say, thank you for your feedback. Let's bring it back to the group.
Gail?
How would we choose those people that come? Would we invite everybody, but then make sure we ask some people that we know would be able to come? How would that happen?
Well, I think we'd have to talk about it as an administrative group, but when you do a focus group, it's a representation. So you might have some primary, some, like 1 from each grade or 2 from each grade, something like that.
So you invite them, you ask them?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
And you
And
could ask for volunteers, put it out if you're interested in being part of a focus group. Please see us. But you don't want it to be 50 or 100 people. You
Right.
want it to be contained so you can really listen, take notes.
And that would help us jumpstart to having a consistent report card across the STU.
Exactly.
Because we don't have that.
Right, and I think it would also help us when we're looking at the platform that we want to choose.
Right.
Being able to choose a platform that is understandable for parents and easy to follow. Currently, jump rope is not the easiest, and while you can put comments in, teachers rarely do. And I think that seems to be a pretty common question. Well, my child was at a 3.5, now they're at a 2.6. What's happened? So those kinds of things. So does that sound like focus group? Okay,
I have a concern,
sure.
Okay.
considering the fact that the black and silver Wolverines chosen by students was a problem. I think that hand-picking a focus group is also going to be considered potentially a problem too. I think there would be a lot of pushback afterwards.
Well, I
of
said ask
saying-
for volunteers.
Sure.
Yeah.
Usually, when you ask for volunteers, you get 3 or 4, and when it comes down to it, you're happy if 2 or 3
Yeah.
show up.
But I
So-
think a dozen would be nice. You know, if we get a dozen
And we
parents.
could also open up a document if parents were unable to attend, where they could submit their questions for the form that they have about jump rope, about proficiency grading, about the report card, so that you don't have, it's multiple questions that are the same.
I'm also a little confused. Is it just a way to get so parents don't have to ask questions about the grades? So it's more.
No, it's more to gather information and to have a real conversation with them of, what are your questions about the report cards? What don't you understand? What are your concerns? And that's good feedback. If we're looking at the grading system, we see it from the educator standpoint, but not necessarily from the parents. And it might be a matter of, we need to do forums for parent education on this is what it means. It may be we need to tweak it. I don't know. I wouldn't know until we really look at it.
And the expectation from elementary to high school is going to be much different. I think high school may focus more around the transcript. Currently, our transcripts are very different. For example, at Proctor, we have a transcript that our guidance counselor is importing all the information. She's created, and we've had the conversation 2 years ago, I think it started with Adam, about what we were putting in the transcript, what our transcript would look like. It started at one point, he was eradicating valedictorian, salutatorian. The board made a decision that those positions should return. There is the question about GPA. I guess next year's class would be the last class that has what you would consider a mixed transcript that has letters and numbers on it, so there's been that concern. But just in general, what the transcript looks like and the information that's being shared out. I know that Poultney wants some different things that the other schools want. So conversation when we were merging was that we were going to come and have a unified transcript. That was kind of the whole, and we could never get on the same page with investing $10,000 to go to a platform about that everybody wanted the same things. And like Judy said, we sat and listened what principals want, what SU administration wants, what educators want, but it's just as
Just rounding it
important
out.
to hear what parents need so that they are invested in their child's education and future beyond our buildings. So, and making it clear to parents, it's not a forum to come and complain. We know there are issues. Lord, we know there are issues. But it's more of asking the questions so that we can see if those questions, if it's even possible to be able to address them in the platforms that are available out there. All right, so if we kind of hand that off to the building principals and Lisa and Judy to set that up, send it out to the schools, maybe in a newsletter, picking the dates. And I would say in the announcement, a maximum of an hour. It shouldn't take.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to be a back and forth. It's really a listening measure, so.
And I did speak with one of the Rutland Town principals, and she suggested that perhaps we include one or two students at the high school and middle school level. What do they think of them?
Sure.
Which is a nice idea.
Yeah. Okay. I think it'll just give us a baseline when we start talking about, if we decide to go to a platform and we all start that we have their piece.
Some input.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. New business, we had tabled does anybody else have any other old business? Well, we were going to put the questionnaire together for March.
Right, but I thought we were gonna look at the questionnaire.
Oh, we don't have a
Haven't have it
draft
yet, okay.
yet, so we'll have that for the next meeting. New business. So we had tabled the job descriptions for the paraprofessionals and the teachers. So if everyone had an opportunity to read over those, and did anyone have any changes or updates?
Is there any requirement that people have a driver's license or something? So I'm just trying to imagine a situation.
Occasionally,
But in a general description, you don't need
in
it,
general,
right?
you don't need a driver's license, no.
You need to approve them separately.
I know you do it together.
Okay.
I just had a question. I know this was in part for insurance purposes, right? It was a little bit about coverage, like the work
You need to have
requirements.
job
and-
descriptions anyway, but what happened was, in the many, many, many tasks of unifying, we never created GRCSU job descriptions. So we have one batch from RSWSU, one from RCSU, and they were not old, but slightly older, and one of the new things in job descriptions is the part where you have to say what the physical requirements are
That
in
was
the
the
working
part, okay.
environment, so that if somebody has workman's comp or something, that goes to the doctor, and the doctor can use that to help determine when the person can come back to work, if they need any accommodations, et cetera, et cetera. So as we update those, we're getting all those requirements in them. And we just took these two because they're really our biggest batch or category of worker, and then we'll work our way through.
So once they're approved, this is something that would be given to employees on a
Yes.
yearly basis?
Well, no, when they're hired, or all of the existing would just get the updated one.
The only comment I have, so on the paraeducator, start of essential duties, it's not officially a disclaimer, but it's the statement saying this is not an all-inclusive. And I apologize, because I read them through.
Well, and
before
that's,
last year,
that's
CSU.
because it's not all-inclusive, because some of them are one-to-one IAs, and they may have a child with particular special needs.
So my question is, so the teacher, classroom teacher one, is that designed to be an all-inclusive? Because typically job descriptions are not, right? You don't want to limit yourself to being
Oh, that's true.
only what's written
in
here.
here, right.
So a little comment saying that is,
They're like basically the
Full?
same,
The same
Thing?
level essential duties.
because it is super detailed.
yeah.
It is incredibly detailed, point by point. But so as long as it's not supposed to be all-inclusive, which I
So
fully
you'd like to
support.
see that paragraph under
Probably
essential
just-
duties, under essential functions?
Some, wherever it is where it falls, but some sort of statement that this is some of, not 100%, you will never be asked to do one other
Could
thing.
actually
as long
maybe
as-
put that right above essential functions, just right here.
But included but not limited to, or something like that.
Yep.
And I think that is the last sentence on the bullet points for each. It says other related duties as assigned for paras, and then
And it does for
and it
teachers.
says something, other tasks and duties as appropriate, but that's fine, I mean.
Just as long as it's understood, that's, I mean,
It
Does
is on
anyone,
there,
does
but-
anyone have any objection to taking the paragraph under essential duties and just inserting it above essential functions on the classroom teachers?
and where it is not
Sounds good to me.
really important.
Okay. So with that change, motion would be in order to approve.
I move we approve the job descriptions.
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And the VHI proxy, I'll let you
Sure.
speak to that.
So, November 7th and 8th is the VSBA, VSA Annual Fall conference. And anyone in this room can sign up to go. You go to the VSA website and you can find it under special events, I think. And they send out to every school district. You can have someone vote at these. VHI does our insurance. So there's the annual VHI meeting notice, and you can, not we, you can designate a proctor or designate that they will vote on your behalf at the meeting. Clarence Haynes is going. You could designate Clarence, or you can just do a designation to VHI for these things. But it is a good idea to designate one or the other as the proctor for your vote, unless someone on this board is going, and then you would want to designate someone from your own board. This has to be sent in ahead of time. It has to be signed, certified, and sent by mail to them ahead of the meeting. So I think we have to get it in by November 1st. So we have a proxy. The first proxy is for Quarry Valley to have a proxy vote for the VHI Health Program, and that is our insurance that we do. And the second one is for the VHI Dental Program. So you have two different ones. And you can appoint an authorized representative to appear and vote on your behalf at any and all meetings of the Vermont Education Health Initiative, and name the person. Or you can do a proxy to the Board of Directors for the VHI Board. Choice.
And what is the pleasure of the board? Unless someone's going and.
So are we talking one vote, or,
You each board gets 2 votes. One is for dental, one is for health.
okay, so if there's 3 people on the board, you don't get 3?
No.
Okay,
No,
gotcha.
you just designate one person to vote
Okay.
on your board's behalf. Or you can I don't know if you can designate. You can, I'm going to.
Oh,
I designate you.
I feel like we did that last.
yeah, with Deborah, I
Because
think.
Deborah
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
it last year.
So a motion would be in order to designate Judith to be our
Proxy?
proxy vote
For both or for one?
for both.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
SU building concerns. So, I don't know, those of you that were on the SU board when we discussed and so the SU board would have been at that time, Jim, myself, and Jim Oberg. There was a great deal of conversation about re-signing the contract in the current location on Evelyn Street. And with the recent newsworthy activity in Rutland, it's only brought the conversation a little more to the forefront. And there's been some continuing conversation, primarily because of the constant activity in that particular area, and also due to the lack of parking. Lots of our SU employees are required to park over at the train station. So this time of year, it even becomes more of a talking point because it becomes dark earlier. I'd like the consensus of this board that when SU board members go on Wednesday, that we force the point at the SU board to create a building search committee and start looking for a building within one of our communities. The building, aside from the safety issues, if you've been in the building recently, the building is also kind of falling apart. It certainly is not, the amount of money we're spending is not being plowed back into the building, I guess I shall say. And in our communities, the size of our communities and the number of buildings that are empty, I think it's within the realm of possibility we might be able to find something. While the SU cannot own property, Quarry Valley can own property, depending on what it is. it's, something to look at. It could be a bond vote if we found something, and then that would be reflected in our assessment when we look at the SU budget. But I think the primary is really the safety concern. I mean, we've invested money in all of our buildings for safety, and we've done the same at that building. Part of the problem is one of the neighbors you have in the building is still open to anyone because they're not at the same level of safety, I guess, as we are. So I just think it would behoove us to start the conversation, and, if there was a search committee at the SU level, it could really make us start looking a little more, and we have time because we are under contract. But rather than waiting, like when the last conversation came up and we sat at the table and they said, well, there isn't any place, well, we didn't really do our due diligence in finding a suitable location, and so we didn't really have any place to move. We were kind of stuck. So would there be any objections when Seth, Jim, and I go to the SU board to bringing this topic up and forcing their hand to create a search committee?
No, I agree with what you're saying. My sister has a bullet hole in her car. She works at Brock. It's not a safe place.
Great.
Oh, when's the contract up in June?
No,
Two more years, Louis?
2023.
23, so 3 years.
2023.
It's good through then.
Yeah.
What's the Boy, we got
3-year
time.
deal.
We got
2023.
time. We
Yeah.
have
So
plenty
we
of
wouldn't be
time.
doing another huge.
Thing is, real estate.
November 18th, 2018.
and haven't
They
been.
still have not been
No.
corrected.
So if we found something viable and we could go forward, we have, yeah.
Yeah. And he also has other properties that
Contacted
we
you at
can
all?
talk to him about, I think, with
The
no
committee on the Diamond Run Mall, have they reached out at all?
problems switching.
I don't know what the situation is there.
They're
So
reaching out
stay
to
with
my
the
company,
same
to me
landlord.
all
Yeah,
the
and they
time,
do
trying to get us
transfer
in, but
property.
I'd like to not go
Very
to
good.
Rutland if we
It's,
have
you
to.
know,
I'd rather have Pulteney, West Rutland, or
Space,
Proctor.
space and
Yeah, I mean,
parking
it's the-
are definitely.
well, it's gonna be the whole
Yeah.
SU community, right? So then you're gonna throw, well,
I know.
so that's
Yeah,
Rutland Town.
Will it be the whole?
it's safe, that's even better.
Yeah,
All
'cause
right.
it's good. We have some questions.
Sure.
Okay.
As a Quarry Valley member, I'm just getting used to this whole Quarry Valley versus the greater Rutland, and I'm feeling really impotent about what we can and cannot do on this board.
Sure.
In fact, some days I wonder why I'm on it, because it feels like we don't have a lot of decision-making power as a board.
So our decision-making power lies within our schools. Transcripts.
No, I
report-
get that. But when it comes to big decisions like what you're talking about,
So
that's
that
not
would be
something we
an,
decide.
that would be an SU board decision because we're all paying an assessment to the supervisory union, Rutland Town, Wells Springs.
So my question is, would it make sense if and when this committee is organized, that at least one person from each town is on that committee so that they can look into properties in their town with facts about it and come back to the board?
Sure. I think the first piece we would need from Judy or Lewis are the amount of space we truly need and the amount of parking we need. I know, I find it frustrating when you go to sign papers and it takes you 15 minutes to find a place to park, and it's literally running up, signing, it took you longer to find a parking spot than to do what you need to do there. Selfishly, and that is, there are much bigger safety issues. But those are really two big pieces I think we would need to find. But sure, I think that's certainly a reasonable request that, and I can't imagine they would say no to that. So are there volunteers at this board from each town that would want to be on the committee when we discuss that Wednesday night?
Well, you're from Proctor, so you're the Proctorite.
You're tied into this.
Well, we're all, I mean, so Seth is from Pulteney and Jim is.
Right, but what I'm saying is, a person from Pulteney would know about real estate in
Some-
Pulteney.
Right.
We could, yeah.
A person from Proctor would know about, like, you know, the White House has just been sold, and they're
Right.
setting up offices in there. So that would be interesting to find out what's going on. West Rutland would want to check in their towns.
Sure. And I think what we would probably do is take the information, go back, do a little research, and come back in.
Exactly.
So,
And it might not be something that you accomplish this year. I mean,
No.
start
Yeah, a
working
couple
on it,
years
but
to-
looking forward.
yeah,
You know, and we can talk to our landlord about what other options he might have.
what other properties
What other
maybe he
properties, that's
has.
one. The other is if you look at properties as a committee, you may find that you have, that one of the boards wants to buy it and own it. And it could be Rutland Town, Quarry Valley, or Well Springs, but the SU board cannot. But a board can have a loan and then they just charge the rent. You know, so there's a lot of options there, but it will take a lot of time. I believe Deborah said the last time they did it, it took them well over a year.
Yeah,
going
that makes
into two.
sense.
Year's not a long time, but
No,
No, you don't want to rush into it, especially if you're, you know, it involves a lease.
I just have a question about, in the meantime, if security is an issue, is that something,
It's something
We
we've been
can
talking about some other steps we can do.
Sweeten you out.
There is a little bit in the budget.
Mushy on the
yeah,
inside.
and they have done, I think part of it is the parking piece of it, and
Right.
you're slightly limited where you're gonna park there, you know, it's, so that's a piece of it.
Almost trying to
Rehab their
SU.
school, yeah,
be upstairs there, and they were gonna charge for
yeah, and they voted that down. They have
municipal building or?
no, their school,
they're gonna have it in the school?
pretty much
They were
like
gonna charge
the
rent.
entire wing where the gym is, and like, I don't know, it used to be shop, home ec, art, like in there.
Oh, not in the attic, in the actual wing.
No, in the attic,
Oh, in the attic.
above that,
Okay.
yeah. But they put it to a vote and they voted it down. Okay.
It's upstairs.
All
Yeah,
right,
representatives push that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I knew
great.
that.
You've been in that.
all right, so moving on to the consent agenda minutes. If everyone's had an opportunity to review the September 16th minutes, a motion would be in order.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Second.
are there any additions?
She just needed this added here, I believe.
Oh,
You needed the number 12 adjournment on the, almost last page, the time in there, right, I think? For the post, we had an executive session, I think you just need the time, so we just need to add that, which I'm looking to see if I wrote that in somewhere.
Good God. What time did we go in?
that was at the beginning of the meeting.
We went into an executive session at the beginning.
Did we go
Executive
with it
session,
in?
no, I think
Oh, we went at the
55?
end also?
Yeah, there were
Oh,
two.
yes. We weren't in there very long.
No, it wasn't very long, but I don't think I wrote down the
I think I
Yeah, it
did.
wasn't too bad. I was home by 10,
Yeah, so it's like 9:15,
September
quarter
6th.
after 9.
somewhere in there.
9:20.
Because we
Like
went in
fi-
at
It was like
8:55.
5 and 9.
We
when
weren't
got
there
done.
super
Very
long.
long, yeah. I didn't write it down. I wrote when we started, but that doesn't help.
I may have sent a text message to my babysitter.
So does
What was the date?
8:55 sound right?
No, that's when we went into.
16th, September 16th.
So does
Yeah,
9:15
I
sound right?
thought it was 9:15.
Okay, 9:15 it is.
So with that amendment,
Okay,
I didn't.
all right, all those in favor?
aye.
Great. You received warrants in your email, so if you had any questions, you could have contacted Louis. So a motion would be in order for the approval of the warrants.
Make the motion.
Second,
I second it.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Judy.
Here I go.
It's funny, I write these in the beginning of the month, and then I get here and
You have
it
to
feels
reread 'em?
old, you know? For activities, in general, October is a very busy month for the central office. We have a lot of state reports due, October 15th, budget development, the service plan for special education was done. So most of those reports are in. Louis is still working on his budgets. GRCSU, I believe, is ready to go, well, for the first review. The administrative team continues to meet monthly to work on joint work regarding the SU, discuss relevant topics, and discuss implementation of various initiatives. I think we know what our agenda is going to be for this month. We're going to have a little talking about grading on the agenda. The auditors, our HR associates, at the time I wrote it, are beginning the audit, but they were in the office the week of September 30th, right through like October 4th, and they should be reporting back to Louis, in December-ish?
We probably won't get a draft until January.
Oh, January, okay. The business office is beginning open enrollment and informational meetings on dental, long-term disability, and life insurance for the former Rutland Southwest employees. And Louis and Debbie they have done this already. They've traveled to the schools to give presentations and ask questions for enrolling employees, because it's all new to them. It's something that our CSU had, but the other district did not. And we've started talking among ourselves about Act 177 and recommendations on funding and resources for special education. This is going to be a multi-year project, because it's really looking at how we're going to get block funding. How are we going to decide where that goes? How are we going to reallocate resources, with our special ed teachers and our paras? So it's something, and it's going to be a lot of professional development too. So we kind of envision that there's going to be cross work between the superintendents, the curriculum directors and assistant superintendents, and the special education directors, student services. And we're just beginning that work. The changes are going to be really beginning next year, and then the funding changes will happen. So I think we really have to work on that and plot it out over time.
Is the state having,
The state gives us written guidance,
But not
interpretations, but not hands-on practical, no. It's just memos, basically, of how you can proceed. Lisa and I attended the VSA all-members meeting on September 17th in Williston. We got the updates, there it is, on the implementation guides for a number of areas which were given to us as, they're called field memos. And we are both going to the VSA, VSBA meeting November 7th and 8th, and that should be informational. And then a team of administrators, including myself, Lisa Madison, Chris Sell, Deborah Dolphy, Joe DeBonis, Christine Cam, and Rick Beal all attended the district management group session on October 1st. The topics included managing priorities regarding building and district initiatives, shifting resources, and realignment of special education. So everything we were just talking about with 177, we get some really good resources. We want to follow up with our entire administrative team group and start that conversation. And that is it for me.
Any questions for Judy? All right, the top of the pile for principals list, Christie.
All right, so just a couple great things that have been happening this month. We had a team of educators from Australia come and visit with the Agency of Education on inclusive practices. They visited 3 schools in Vermont, and ours happened to be one of them. We worked, it's called with the Swift Institute last year, and they recommended our building. So I would like to thank our special education team. They were very impressed. The education system is not very successful right now in Australia, and they're trying to implement some changes. They work out of the University of Melbourne, And so they are hoping to FaceTime some of our teachers, just looking at best practices for inclusion. They had the opportunity to interview some of our parents at Proctor Elementary School as well, so it was a pretty honorable event for sure. One thing you may or may not have seen, our Spanish club was recognized in the Brandon Reporter. We have a new Spanish teacher this year, and she has been building our Spanish program with great enthusiasm. She's also working at West Rutland, and she has done a phenomenal job acquiring the interest of students for Spanish this year. Also in the newsletter, but I do want to highlight, Lydia Coos had retired from our building last year. If you take a look, she has created stained glass windows for our entryway. It is really spectacular if you could stop by and see, especially in the early mornings when the lights are on still. Her and her husband both do this as a business now. She does, this is her practice now. And so this was her donation back to the school and to the community. So it is, I mean, pictures don't say enough for it. And also, we had a memorial bench installed in dedication of one of our students that passed last year. And just a lot of great community things that are happening. And I think pictures are great. However, I think it's pretty spectacular if you stop by the school and see what's going on. But we love visitors, so anytime you're in the area, just stop on by. We're working on a lot of things. We finished our first round of the map testing. We're analyzing that. We're going to be having a Pontley Elementary School teacher come over and kind of help us look at our SBAC alignment. That's something new we're working on this year, so we're hoping to gain a lot of support and strategies from Pontley staff. Let's see. We have a lot of events coming up. Stop by anytime.
So I don't have the reporter for the Spanish, because I'd already cut that for the scrapbook at the library, but I have, the music was also in.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, so pass it around.
I did not get word of that one.
No, it's a nice little article as well. Front page
Perfect.
too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great.
Russell Jones read it.
All right, any questions for Christy? Chris?
We did not have anybody from Australia come to visit us. They drove by and waved. So just have a couple just things that I just want to highlight. On October 1st, our math department, it's something we talked about, we're trying to do more community-based things, and so it's something which we went round and round about, but we had a math family fun night, and it's something where we discussed this in the past, where math has kind of a negative stigma to it, that, and so we're trying to, change that a little bit with our students as well as with the community, but they had a nice evening. It was well thought out. I want to thank Patty Ryan and Allie Kennedy for hosting that, played Farkle, which, if you've ever played Farkle, it's a fun game. It's a good party game, but it's also appropriate for math family fun night as well. So it was a nice evening. I also, this 2 weekends ago, we had our homecoming festivities, the annual games against West Rutland, which were great games, well attended. We had the Friday evening, we had our pep rally and our bonfire. Had a nice evening for it. I do want to thank the sports boosters. Every year they do a great job of hosting that and putting on the kids, and the community had a great time. And then the next day, they said it had great games against West Rutland, as they always are, a lot of fun. And the crowds were well behaved for the most part, which is something he said, for when you have an intense rally like that. But as Christy said, we also finished up their fall interim map assessments, made the switch from STAR to map, and so right now we're working with teachers and just analyzing data, breaking it down, and looking for trends and what it will mean for classroom instruction and moving forward into our mid-year assessments, which will be done in January. I would like to congratulate Joe Valerio, who was this year's recipient for the UVM Green and Gold Scholarship. Something they said it's a $64,000 award to be used over the course of a student's 4-year college career. Joe received this based upon his academic distinction by the end of his junior year. So congratulations to Joe. It's a well-deserved honor. And then, like I said, we had a couple seniors this past weekend recognized. Ali Almond and Maddie Flanders, and then, a couple weekends ago, our senior boys, Logan Starling, Solomon Parker, and Joe Valeria. So I just want to congratulate them on a great career. So that's really about it. So.
Thank you. Kristen?
Facts to follow. Just a couple things. You do have my written report. I wanted to let you know that on the 25th, this Friday, we're having a cappella, the Vermont Symphony Orchestra come, and I'd like to thank Hills and Hollows and the VSO for sponsoring our performance. And I'd like to invite you to come. Harry Potter Day is also Friday, and that's in 5th and 6th grade. It's a culmination of the unit that includes, they got a lot of hands-on activities, experiments, and presentations, and kids and their teachers come in full costume. So pictures will be in the next report. Something that I'm excited about, I've started a new tradition, I guess, this year. I've been popping into classrooms and stealing the class for a few minutes, and we've been doing laps around either the outdoor circle or the inside common area, and then whatever class I take, they get to pick the next class. So it's been a really neat way for me to connect on just, I don't know, a different level, walking around, and so that's something I am enjoying. And I'd like you to check out our website. We have teacher photos and bios. We're in the staff directory section, but we're still working, we don't have everybody's photo, and that's all in the process. But I'd like to thank Shannon for her work, because it looks a lot different when you pop on the staff directory and there's a picture with a little bit about them. I am working on walkthroughs and observations, as well as looking at how trauma is impacting our student performance. And our teachers are preparing for parent-teacher conferences, and this will be their first time reporting through Infinite Campus. So those have just been made available to us this week. So we're going to be working on that.
Good luck. All right, Joe?
Just highlight a couple things in my report. Saturday at the Halloween Parade, our band will be participating, and we have two of our seniors, Kat Scribner and Heath Mason, are representatives to the Pumpkin Royalty Contest this year, so they'll be in the parade with our band. I just got an email last week from Stafford. They have a new student leadership program, and two of our students, Tommy Dunbar and Pam Putnam, were selected. They had to apply for it and get, references and all that type of stuff. So proud of those two that are doing it. The fire marshal was in last week. Just a few little minor things that were easy fixes, nothing really major, which was great. One of them, he said, I can't believe I've been coming here this whole time and never noticed that before. So that's something like that was pretty good to hear. Health inspector was in too, and our kitchen area was actually usually we get dinged for our popcorn ceiling in the sink, and they said we're not dinging it for the sink anymore. So we got a 99 instead of a 98 this time. So that was pretty good. And congratulations to our fall seniors, fall sports seniors participating. We had our senior presentations. For those of you who don't know, Polteny does a great thing with the football players and cheerleaders. We had our last 100 yards where the students kind of go down the last 100 yards, and we have a senior skit night the night before the last regular scheduled game. So that was this weekend, and it was a great thing. But congratulations to all of our seniors, and by the luck of the draw, we are the #1 seed in football, and our girls soccer team, first year's varsity, we're going to pull the huge upset tomorrow night up in West Rutland, but we'll
No trash talk.
it was great. They had a great season. We had 2 seniors on the team and 2 juniors. The rest were all basically freshmen and 8th graders. The program, it's been dormant for probably 8 years now. So last year we played on a quasi varsity JV schedule type thing. This was our first full varsity season, and future looks pretty bright with that. But it's been great. And to follow up what you said, met with our girls this morning. Heidi came in just to talk to them, and we just kind of had our counselors there too, and just reviewed went over everything with them and supported them and told them, if they need to talk about it, people are here. But, it's, you hear something like that, and I kind of did the positive. It's like saying you've got to watch people save a life. That's kind of,
Yeah.
that's kind of a neat thing, so.
Shows you the fragility of life. They,
Yeah.
we tell them to make good choices and
Yeah.
think about, things can change in a blink of an eye, and that was certainly right there before them on that day, so. All right, thank you. And Jay?
So we have lots of wonderful things happening at West Rutland School. Last, a couple weeks ago, we had a group called Fiddlesticks, which is a component of the Vermont Symphony Orchestra and they presented to our pre-K to 6th grade. It was a wonderful concert. It was a string trio. Our band is marching in the parade this week as well, and we have also completed our senior night for both sports for soccer this year. So that was wonderful, and we completed the regular season for all of our soccer teams tonight. So we'll start the playoffs tomorrow, and we'll see where we go. I too have been working on, I've met with all of the staff on their professional learning plans, and I have actually already started my observations and walkthroughs. I've done actually quite a few of my walkthroughs already. It's a new practice for me using a system that I wasn't familiar with, but I'm really actually embracing it, and I like the fact that it kind of cuts to the chase. And actually, I also sent an email out to the staff just today about their peer observations. They need to be able to do an observation of someone within the building and someone within the district. So we're facilitating that as well. The staff have been working, I may have mentioned, we have a building-wide PLC 2 times a month, and we are getting a tremendous amount of work done. The staff are actually logging on and putting it on a Google Calendar, what they're actually working on, so I have some oversight on that. And a good example of that is I'm meeting with all of my class advisors Wednesday, tomorrow. There's also a group working on wellness. We have all sorts of different groups working. Just 2 weeks ago, we were working on maps, as those were coming to an end, and we're getting, actually, between those and our action groups, it's amazing how much work is actually getting done at the building level. So I'm really proud of our staff. And I'm continued to be impressed with the kids, the students from pre-K all the way to 12th grade at West Rutland. What a wonderful community. And it's just it's a pleasure to serve as their principal.
Great, thank you. So, moving on to personnel. Oh.
So we've received a letter from Linda Paquette. She is a longtime teacher at Pulteney High School, announcing her retirement. I'm notifying you of my intention to retire at the end of the school year. I would like to access the retirement compensation, but she does say, it has been an honor to work as a teacher in the district for many years, and I can only begin to thank so many people for having this opportunity to work with our students. So.
And is that Pulteney High School?
Pulteney High School.
And what did she teach?
She's one of our global citizenship teachers.
I'm sorry, what was her name?
Linda Paquette, P-A-Q. Thank you. U-E-T-T-E.
So is that a position that will be replaced in the next? So a motion to accept her resignation would be in order.
I will make the motion to accept the resignation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Contract recommendations.
So. I'll read them out loud. We have Claire Molnar at Proctor High School, National Board Certification Stipend per CBA. Walter Brown at West Rutland School, he's a that's support staff, I'm sorry, .5 custodian. John Roberts, temporary on-call maintenance staff. And extracurricular, Melinda, and I'm not sure how. Coop. It is Coop, okay. At Polteny Elementary, after-school program staffer. Erica Ox, Polteny Elementary, after-school program staffer. And Jamie Milazzo at Polteny Elementary,
That
8th
should be
grade advisor.
high school.
I'm sorry, Polteny High
That should
School.
be high school.
Says- But it does say 8th grade, I should have known.
Right, 8th grade.
I'm just reading it.
So the custodian is John Roberts at West Rutland also?
He's Polteny.
He's on call maintenance. Polteny.
Polteny, both Polteny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a new position?
He's always been like our go-to sub.
Uh-huh.
It was a contract.
Question's not answered.
It was a contract correction.
It's not a new position.
Okay.
It's not a new.
It's not a position. He fills in for people. It's a sub.
So he's a sub.
That's a sub,
He's a
okay.
substitute, right?
So it's really no change.
And so we've increased his rate of pay?
Correct, yeah.
And what was the rate of pay prior?
3% less
Oh, so he just wasn't updated.
at the end of
Okay.
last year, yeah.
And West Rutland is an additional person or a replacement?
He is filling a half-time position, and that is the union rate. He now falls under the union. He was a temporary employee.
Yeah.
And now he's filling a half-time position.
Is that a new position?
My understanding is that Walter has been there for years, working as a part-time fill-in person. At some point last year, that morphed, and Walter only wants to work part-time. He fills in for us throughout the year, and I asked Lewis if we could at all be able to keep him on in that capacity, and he's been invaluable for us.
So how many custodians are at West Rutland and at Polteny?
So at West Rutland, I have 4 and 4.5 custodians.
Polteny Elementary, I have 1 during the day and 1 at night.
High school?
It's freaking 4.5. 4 3/4. We'll put it that way, 4 3/4. That's including Rich.
That's including
Rich.
Rich.
Oh, I didn't include
I'm sorry,
Rich.
so
didn't
without,
include
yeah, I'm including Rich at the high school, but
Okay.
Who's Rich?
so,
He goes
Rich is our head of
Head of
maintenance, I'm sorry.
maintenance.
So we have 3
Steele's head of
3/4
the
custodians,
public
and we have
works.
Rich as the head of maintenance,
Got it.
sorry.
All right. So a motion would be in order for the recommendations presented.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Vacancies. Any vacancies? I don't think so.
No, not for you. that I
Okay.
know of.
And are you doing this, Louis, the update on new hires?
I didn't provide that, so.
Debbie
Oh.
just provides this as an update each month, but if you look at it, she goes all the way back to April
Okay.
for hires. So if you look, though, there's the part-time custodian for West Rutland. She just updates it. and
Okay, I
gives
thought it
to
was
us.
something different.
Informational,
I
that's
thought it
all.
was from Louis.
No. it's from-
Okay,
There's no money on it.
so you're up next, though,
No
Louis.
salaries.
So I have in your packet is a forecast for staffing for the current year. So I took a look at what we had budgeted for the current year compared with what we currently have in each building. There was, as you all know, a lot of turnover at the end of last year. Both teaching positions, support staff positions. So every time you have a position change, and you rehire for that position, there's always a different salary, different benefits based on what they're looking for health insurance and what they sign up for and what they don't. So there's always variances, sometimes to the positive, sometimes to negative. In addition to that, when we had budgeted, we did not have a settled contract, so we knew we were budgeting for 2 years' worth of unsettled contracts, so it was an estimate at the time. So based on those two main factors, staff turnover, negotiations, and then I also listed a few other things that are playing a part in this, we are currently showing that we are overspent on our staffing alone of approximately $133,000. Keep in mind, that's less than 1% of our overall budget. We have a almost $17 million budget. So at this time, there's a lot of lines that are underspent. We are still early in the school year, so I'll continue to update this. I'll put together a full forecast later this fall, early winter, and we'll continue to review this. I'm not looking to take any steps at this time, just principals should be keeping just in the back of their mind that we are over on staffing, so that when you're approving expenses to not to be overspending supply lines or dues and fee lines and any of those lines that they have control over.
Louis, the 133,252 at the bottom, that was an increase. If you look up at the top, there were 3 increases and 2 savings. Oh, no, 3 savings. Okay, so sorry. So is that from those increases and the savings didn't cover it?
So the first page gives you just a breakdown of all the different scenarios, and then the second page up is just, this is the subtotal. There's a lot of detail behind this. There was just so many variances. It was, I didn't think it was, there was a point to show them all to you because it would just raise a lot of questions that, because there was so many staff turnovers.
Yeah, I was actually on this page.
So looking at Polteny Elementary School, they were over by about $7,000 for staffing, which
Yep.
is very minimal when you look at the total amount that we're looking at there. And I give a reason for each school as to why they're over. So Polteny High School's over by $51,000, and that's due to there was 3 people that switched health plans.
Wow.
We have no control over that. The
So
difference between cost between a single plan and a family plan is about $11,000, $12,000. So, and if you don't have any plan, if you're taking buyback and you switch to family, it's almost a $20,000 cost increase. So we did have some people that were not on a plan and they switched to having insurance, and there was some people that switched plans. So that was the cause at Polteny High School.
So Proctor Elementary, you get a savings of $9,841.
Correct. So they're right now, they're underspent.
Okay.
So the 133 is adding up the over,
That's what I asked.
Yes.
That's
Yes,
the
okay,
That's the
gotcha.
total of all of the items.
Thank you.
Also, keep in mind, when we look at the negotiations for the teachers, there was lots of adjustments that took place, some for Rutland Southwest, some for Rutland Central.
Yep, I remember talking about
Not all
those.
schools got the same percentage increases.
Yep.
Right.
Depending on what union they were part of, what building they were part of. So some schools are up, some schools are down because of that negotiations.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions on that?
So you're not worried right now?
Not right now, no.
We're better than we were last year.
Yeah.
We are,
When you were putting the hammer down.
Yep. Last year, we were over 200,000.
I know. Yeah. All right. So future meeting dates, if you remember, we discussed, and so November, December, January, we'll be meeting, maybe February too, isn't it? We'll be meeting in West Rutland. So that was the consensus of the board. And future agenda items. Now, next meeting, we'll be discussing budget, Louis?
Yes.
So is there anything that anyone has that needs to be discussed, or can we primarily focus on the first draft of the budget at the next meeting?
I think we should focus on the budget.
As do I, but I'm just,
Yeah.
just taking a poll.
Do you want that draft of the mascot questionnaire, or do you want to table that till like? We need to do it by January, because if you want to have it, well, not even, because it's outside the polls.
Right, it would just be on the table, like, so
Right.
in Proctor, we have other things at the table, so. Yeah, we could always do that and just hand it out, I'll
Yeah.
work with you. So
Okay.
Just to do the questionnaire to put out for all
Colors.
voters. So we decided that at the last meeting.
Yeah, I was wondering, but none of the ADs heard anything. I don't know if anybody at this table heard anything. I've heard nothing about it. Joe was asked to do this. He did it, and the kids voted on it from all the schools. I guess I don't know
So
why.
it's my understanding that a pretty small percentage of students voted on it. And
Who else heard complaint? I'm not hearing from anybody.
there were people that had come,
Come where? To the meeting?
had voiced their concerns. And one of the goals that we had set at this board level was our unification and, don't have the goals with me, but
Community culture, essentially.
Yeah.
yes, creating a positive community culture.
Transparency.
And that was one of the things that seemingly kind of set off the conversation. Hadn't included. So I don't think that there's a downside to doing it. I don't think that it's,
Yeah, it's just the kids that took the time and did it, and they were all asked to do it, and if they didn't want to do it, oh well, but
right.
Is that what
we're talking a
happened?
very small number of, I don't know how many people are talking to you, but nobody else has heard of it.
Well,
So if it's a very
I think that,
tiny number, I mean,
I-
we're
I-
not gonna make everybody happy no matter what.
there's no goal to make everyone happy.
But like I say,
The
this
goal
seems,
is
has
to,
anybody else heard anything? I mean, nobody's heard anything, that's the, you know?
the goal is to include our voters, our
We can include them in every
communities.
single thing, I get it, but at some point,
Was there a
gotta make the-
reason that was there a reason that such a small percentage voted? Do we know why
Well,
kids
I
just
mean,
didn't vote?
It's a survey, as you do know with most surveys.
Oh, it was a survey and whoever handed it
Don't
in?
get-
If you get a
So-
third of
so
them back,
every-
you're
He
lucky.
mailed out every student, we did a Google survey, and he mailed.
So
I know
everybody had equal
The
opportunity?
students at my high school received it,
Okay.
and I'm sure Proctor did too, but I know I
My
had.
daughter received it at
Yeah.
West Rutland.
So
Yep.
with most surveys, you get low responses with surveys, that is accurate. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like 90% responded,
Right.
Right.
but that's surveys in general.
And it was something we had originally discussed when we were working and merging, that when we came to this point, that it was a topic that would go to our voters, that we would include our communities when you go back and look at the Act 46 conversations. It was a conversation that had come up. So I don't think it's not dismissing anyone. It's not,
You kind of are, I mean, we're, how
I
many
think-
people do you think are not liking that?
I think it's trying to incorporate and bring everyone across all communities.
I think we are, like I said, I don't,
Well, you're,
nobody's hearing it.
Well, I think we also discussed having a couple choices, not just opening it up to any,
right,
right, so the thing that any voter could pick up when they go to vote would have the choice that was one of the choices.
Existing.
The existing.
money would
Because
be
for
a
the
choice.
7 or 10 kids who are gonna do bass fishing, that probably no one else is paying attention about it, but when it's the next sport that more people might have a passion for, say,
And so
then they
there
might
are- and there
have a
were-
stronger feeling about, wait a minute, we already decided on these colors and the Wolverine is gonna be,
Right.
who decided that? Those
That's the
7 people,
kinda-
you know?
Yeah, I get it.
Even
but
though
this
it
is
wasn't
kinda-
like that, but.
Yeah, but this is
So
kind
the
of like, these
perception
colors
is-
have nothing to do with any school.
I know, it's,
The mascot
they made a
has
good,
nothing to do with
right.
any,
No,
this is like the perfect,
There were two-
nobody's
I
complaining.
know.
There were
You know
two,
what I
hear
mean?
ya.
That's the problem, actually. Nobody's
Right.
complaining. Why are we changing this?
there are two
For
things.
adult votes now?
Excuse me?
Are we looking for adult votes now?
Yes, so we
Oh,
would do
okay.
it at
So
a
that's the
March
difference.
meeting.
Okay.
Right,
Got it.
to incorporate across,
Okay, so kids have voted if they wanted to. Now
Right.
we're looking at adults.
Right.
Gotcha.
okay?
So I would hope that we would put the student choice in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we discussed.
I can even say, this was.
And we
Already
planned
tells us.
that was the student choice. And then,
I'm gonna go with the
I
student.
think I made the same point last month too. I'm just saying it is too bad that we're overriding the kids' choice, but as
And
a,
everybody had a
as-
chance to vote.
yeah, but as a
No,
good
Jill,
faith,
students. Students had a chance.
No,
The
Right, right,
adults did not.
And that's
student,
who's gonna
every
be wearing
student.
the colors and the emblem, and
That's
as
right.
far
But
as
as
if we
a-
went to the voters on
But you gotta have
every
family
decision we
buy-in.
make, we would never make a decision, correct?
right, but we
So go
also
with the
set it
kids
as
this
one
time
of our
around, and
board
then
goals.
3,
So
4 years
we
of-
can either set board goals or not set board goals. And if we set board goals and
should
say,
follow
well, they're fine, but we really didn't mean that, you know.
Well, it's kind of like the grading thing. We're creating a forum of people,
Right.
so we're giving them a chance to have a say and so
Right.
just-
And do the kids understand that this is also gonna go before adults? Joe?
They
Yeah.
don't.
They don't
No.
know.
They don't.
No, they were sticking with them.
But when it came before this board, also no one knew it was coming because it wasn't on the agenda. It was kind of a quick thing because bass fishing was starting and unified sports were starting.
And I think if it's going to be a new survey, it should be given back out to the kids again.
I agree.
Because it might
Sure,
be
that's
different
fine.
information.
I agree.
And then you get the input from all really, it's your stakeholders.
Yep.
Yeah,
And-
I don't think we should say, well, the kids voted once and maybe you're gonna get your purple and black colors, but maybe not. I think it should be,
And
here it
that's
is,
fine.
everybody.
That's the goal, to have
Right.
all stakeholders
Yeah.
involved.
I would just recommend, as somebody who sat on the Activity Standards Committee, who sat through a lot of these cooperative team discussions and voted on them, it's going to be very important to stay away from any current school colors,
Right.
any current school mascots. That has caused a great deal of problems in other places where they've done cooperative teams. You have to start fresh, and you have to stay away from anything that's current.
And Joe, did you have that on your survey?
Yeah.
So we should make sure it's on this survey as
Yeah.
well, okay?
And that has been a big downfall for people who have done cooperative teams.
Yep.
It's caused a lot of rifts between the towns. When, wow, how did West Rutland end up, one of the school colors
Yep.
is green for Quarry Valley? And you can imagine how that stuff goes. So stay away from anything that is current.
I think that's why we talked about, we don't open it up to the whole rainbow spectrum, just this, which was already voted on once, and then maybe two other
So do you have
options.
choices already?
Joe had choices on the
You
survey.
use those
So I
same
had kids
choices, do you
nominate,
think?
and then they voted, and then I did a couple votes, because of course there were
It
10,
was
12
discussed not to
nominations. So I can
exclusively-
tell you what the final
Okay, sorry.
the final 5 were, and give you that. If people may have other, ideas too.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Another, another
I think it would be,
option, but there were
Then
many
you get
options
the-
to choose from that
what was that
kids
thing?
nominated.
I think if we took the survey that Joe has and take a look at it and not recreate the.
Right. I
agree.
The final one, what they voted
I
on,
think
Yeah, I
the final
think
5 things.
Yep.
I just think you have to be very careful about
Because then you'll get like the people.
Can we have a copy of your survey?
I'll look for it, see if I can find it.
No, we're not going to leave it that. Okay, so we'll have that for the next meeting then.
Okay.
All
So it will
right.
be.
Anything else? If not, a motion for executive session would be in order.
I move that we go into executive session at 7:19.
Second?
Who's this one for?
We did good, right?
And so the only person we need is Chris.
Yeah, we need Chris. Now let's
me
see a
this
big
time.
smile, Chris.